Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Haikal Zarif bin RAMLI, representing Group A to explain what our study about machine condition monitoring and fault diagnosis on bearing. Okay, without wasting any time, let's move to the introduction.
My name is Muhammad Jafar Al-Shadiq and I will present about the introduction of machine condition monitoring and fault diagnosis of bearing. The first is a history of bearing. The first intuition comes from Leonardo da Vinci in his study of friction. Then, a Parisian classical mechanic Jules Serure was able to patent the first ball bearing in 1869. Type of bearing are used for various applications such as rolling element bearing, plain bearing, fluid bearing, magnetic bearing, Jules bearing, and flexure bearing. Condition monitoring techniques are required to acquire the operation condition data of a rotating machine. An effective condition monitoring program on bearing operation can improve a machine operation efficiency, save costs, and extend the machine lifespan. There are types of bearing faulty in machines such as lubrication problem, sealing condition, insufficient clearance in operation, and etc.
My name is Nur Saleha binti Anan. Now I would like to proceed with definition of a bearing, condition monitoring, and vibration analysis. For bearing, bearing is a machine component that limits relative motion to only the desired motion and reduce friction between moving parts. The bearing design may, for example, allow for free linear movement of the moving part or free rotation around a fixed axis. Alternatively, it may inhibit motion by controlling the vector of normal force bearing on the moving parts. Most bearing makes the desired motion easier by reducing friction. Bearings are widely classified based on type of operation, the motion permitted, or the direction of the load's force applied to the part. For condition monitoring, it is a vital element for maintenance strategy like condition-based maintenance or predictive maintenance. Condition monitoring is the process of monitoring particular equipment parameters and recording any significant changes that may indicate an approaching breakdowns. The purpose of this strategy is to maintain the shape of the machine and its performance at ideal level. For vibration analysis, vibration-based analysis has proved to the most common non-destructive technique because of its advantages over the others. Vibration analysis monitor the level and pattern of vibration signal inside a component, piece of equipment, or building to identify abnormal vibration events and assess the test item's condition. It is defined as a technique for detecting the vibration levels and frequency of equipment and then using the data to analyze the health of the machine and their component.
Now, let's look at the reason why condition monitoring on bearing is important. Okay, the first point is bearing somehow can easily get contaminated because the lubricant on bearing body can act as an attractive layer to attract dust, fabric, and debris. This contaminant can cause misalignment and even worse, spark the premature failure. For example, in this picture here, this is the contaminant that attracted by the lubricant layer. Okay, the second point is bearing are the core component of frictionless transmission because bearing sometimes can cause highly efficient production. In other way, can cause unpredictable downtime, meaning that it plays a very big role in emission. Okay. However, certain solid film lubricant and a high frequency maintenance plan is required in severe condition or in extreme condition. For example, if the bearing working in high temperature condition in area with high radioactivity or vacuum, then high frequency maintenance plans is required to prevent corrosion and oxidation in bearing, which can lead to component failure across the machine. And this will make the bearing condition monitoring and maintenance even more vital. Third reason, corrosion and oxidation can occur in bearing. Bearing is a very little component that is prone to wear when exposed to an environment such as rust that can build up due to corrosion. Okay, especially if the bearing is formed from corrosive materials such as steel and it is lubricated with oils. Okay, corrosion and oxidation will lead to misalignment and eventually operation failure. My last point is bearings might be lubricated incorrectly. Incorrect lubricant grade or type or specification will lead to misalignment, wear and premature bearing failure. Okay, even worse, evaporation may have left the bearing with no lubricant and contaminated lubricant. And how we are going to measure the bearing health? So there are many variables that we can measure to determine the bearing health. One of it is vibration, noise, electric current, oil and grease temperature, or any combination of this variable. In our case, I will explain about the vibration technique to monitor the condition of the bearing. Okay, condition monitoring data can be analyzed using time domain technique, frequency domain technique, or time frequency approach, which provide useful data for bearing defect diagnostics. So the method that we choose to explain about bearing condition monitoring is vibration analysis technique. This is because the vibration analysis technique is widely used for monitoring machine condition. Okay, defect in machines such as bearing can be indicated by the change in the vibration signal. Okay, vibration signal that obtained from the special equipment might show us vibration machines have state. Okay, for example, a rolling bearing, if there is an impulse signal, it shows that the bearing has a defect when the sensor passed over the faulty spot. As a result, the machine's vibration amplitude will increase. The frequency component that present in the vibration signal, it can also be used to determine the defect component and the severity of the defect. Okay, and the equipment used is the transducer as the reader, the vibration reader. On precisely, we use accelerometer as a tool to read the vibration on bearing. Then, the accelerometer will provide vibration data to the FFT analyzer, and the data will storage in the DAQ. Then, we use a computer to convert the data from the accelerometer to relevant data, which is frequency, amplitude, or displacement. Okay, if we see the figure here, this is the transducer or sensor or accelerometer. We attach it to the bearing, then the transducer will read the vibration data, the AQ. Then by using laptop, we can sub the data and we can filter and convert the data to the relevant form of data lah, such as frequency here. See, we have a vibration analysis spectrum, and this is the time and frequency domain that has been filtered from the data stored in the EQ.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hakim bin Basir and this is our conclusion for this assignment. To summarize, bearings play an extremely significant part in today's industries. It has been used in many rotating machinery and systems. Because of this, it is essential to be aware of the state the bearing is in so that any potential losses can be avoided. If a bearing fails, it can affect other components attached to the bearing. These components include the shaft, the rotor, and even the electrical motor. Failure of the bearing can occur for various reasons, including misalignment, contamination, and corrosion, improper fitting and assembly, also inadequate assembly. Condition monitoring. Condition monitoring is an appropriate strategy for machinery with bearing application. The plan is to analyze the data to determine the bearing's performance and detect any failure. Vibration analysis is one of the condition monitoring technique other than lubricant analysis, infrared thermography, and acoustic emission. Vibration analysis use vibration data from the machinery to be reviewed and analyzed. There has been a significant amount of investigation into vibration analysis and bearings. For example, research from Kadesab and Shivakumar on 2018 titled Vibration Analysis Technique for Rotating Machinery and Its Effect on Bearing Fault. Another research by Kulkarni and Kadesab on 2021 researched the spectrum analysis of rolling element bearing fault. This research and much more research on the web on the vibration analysis and bearing show that the bearing analysis is the suitable method for bearing detection fault. Thank you. That's all for our presentation on machine condition monitoring and fault diagnosis of bearing. Thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.